Bing.
All right. We've got our last live show in March. I'm really excited for this one. Sports Talk Therapy. We got the background. We will fix the video. No big deal. Eventually. Me and Meta will work on it this off season. But we've got a special show for you guys. We are gonna do the top 10 quarterbacks in NFL history. I am wearing all the Packer gear, but I'm gonna shock you guys and try to be unbiased. But before we get going, Med, how you doing, dude?
Doing a lot better. Professionally, I started a new job today, so that was really cool, and really just blessed right now, and to be able to actually sit here and talk sports with y'all, I'm really looking forward to this. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be on in the show. It's a pleasure's mine, and I'm gonna tell you a little about myself, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, yeah.
My name is Mike Essen. I hosted a popular talk show for years. It was politically based mostly, but had sports and movies on, which are my two passions, not politics. And I love all-time great discussions. It's an honor to be on this show and talk about the 10 greatest QBs of all time, in my opinion. It was politically based mostly, but had sports and movies.
We have some playback there.
I don't know what. Oh, it's my Twitter. I'm sorry.
Yeah, turn off.
Apologize. My bad, Mike.
What a rookie mistake there. Come on, man. Sorry, Mike.
It's okay. I'm ready to rumble with our list and comment on this. This is what it's all about, you know? This work's all about.
Really quick, where can people find you? I know you're not on Twitter right now, but where can people listen to your stuff, man?
The best way to find me is on YouTube. Go under the name you see here, Mike Essen. I comment on sports. I have some movie comments. I have some political shows. And if you just Google my name, you can find me on other people's programs a lot, though I currently not doing a show right now.
Cool. Well, if you send that to me later, I'll tag it in the YouTube video, and I'll tag it on Twitter too.
Okay? I will. I appreciate that, Izac. Thank you.
Awesome, man. All right. This is exciting. There's been a lot of stuff in the NFL, which we'll hit in a future episode. This is all, well, unless there's current players, which I've got two. But we're going to start at the top of our list, and we're going to give some reasons why we've got those guys. We're going to go ahead and start at 10 and work our way up. I think I finally got my list finalized. I changed it like 7 times today. I did about 3 hours of research today alone. I did some this weekend. I've thought about this for like a week, and I struggled with it for a while, but I'm excited. So I'm going to go last on this round if you guys are cool. Yep. Why don't we have Mike start? Mike?
Guest of honor.
Number 10 on my list is Roger Staubach, Captain Comeback. And what makes this player so great, what made him so great, was that he led the Cowboys to 23 game winning drives. 15 were comebacks in the fourth quarter, and 17 were overtime or 2 minutes or less. And he not only was a two-time Super Bowl winner, he started his career at 27. Imagine how much more he would have done, not could have done, but would have done if he was in the Navy. And his scrambling ability was up there with Fran Tarkenton, up there with Randall Cunningham. But his clutch ability, Captain Comeback, gives him that name. He is number 10 on my list. The 8th through 10th are pretty close, but I think the other two are slightly better. But he is the quarterback in the 70s.
Can I just say something really quick? A guy I really wanted to throw on my list who was right there was Tarkenton. Watching highlights on that guy today and his script, God, he was so much fun.
He was back for half hours, just going back and forth and back and forth.
It was great.
And really and truthfully, if you really think about Fran Tarkenton, you look at that team, because whenever you think of Fran Tarkenton, you think about the defense they had, Bud Grant, Fran Tarkenton was pretty much all they had. They had Chuck Foreman as a running back, but he really didn't have any receivers to really help him out. It was basically
Sammy White's forgotten today, and so was Ahmad Rashad by everybody but us. Well, Rashad's an announcer, but that's a little different. But
yeah,
you're right. You're right, Ned. Your point was
defense
right.
was great, but I agree, man. That offense wasn't the Vikings of today. That's for sure.
No, it wasn't.
Did you guys want to do honorable mentions here too after we give our 10s? Like
we can do that.
Made it? Cool. All right, Med, you're up, man.
All right. Well, my number 10 is actually the guy that Roger Staubach saw twice in 1970s in 2 very good Super Bowls. One considered one of the best of all time. I'm talking about the Blonde Bomber. I'm talking about Terry Bradshaw, who went 4-0, and his postseason record was 14-5. Yes, his numbers ain't really as they are compared to the stars of today, and you will see a few throwbacks on my list. But the first one you're going to see is Terry Bradshaw. Iconic moments. He's got a couple with an immaculate reception. One throw to Lynn Swann during one of the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowls was considered the greatest throw ever made. And that was, everyone has seen it, where Lynn Swann is on the sideline, does this amazing catch, and he was able to do that. So also found out something really interesting is he actually played in a game against Baltimore where they blew out the team so bad. It was 40-14 that some of the fans left the game early. And then there was a plane crash that happened in that section. And it is actually covered by a documentary called Section 1 from 2022. So go ahead and check that out as well.
Wow.
Terry Bradshaw, Super Bowl winner, lifesaver. Boom. Number 10.
He's mine as well. He's my number 10. I was torn here because I went last. I'll give you guys my honorable mentions really quick. Johnny Unitas was an honorable mention. Fran Tarkenton, dude, I was so impressed with him. Both those guys were excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I'm going to shock you guys right now. Brett Favre did not make my top 10, so he gets an honorable mention. And the last one is Otto Graham. I was impressed with all 4. If we were doing a top 15, they would have made it. There's other great quarterbacks like Roethlisberger, Fouts, but Bradshaw made it. I was shocked when I looked up some stuff on him. I didn't realize he was a 2-time touchdown passing. He led the league in passing TDs twice. He was a 2-time Super Bowl MVP, 1-time NFL MVP. He wasn't just carried by that defense. He contributed. And in one of the Super Bowls, he was outstanding. 4 TDs and one that they won, only 1 interception. He was one of the reasons they won that game in Super Bowl 13. Super Bowl 14, he had another 300-yard game, 3 interceptions, but he played great in those 2. The first 2 were, the first one he only had 96 yards, so it was defense in Super Bowl 9. But there's not a lot of guys that can say they won 4 Super Bowls. We've only got, 3 quarterbacks that have done it. So Bradshaw kind of had to make the list for me. I couldn't leave him off. So I got Terry Bradshaw as well at number 10. Do you guys want to
I just want to say one thing, if I might.
Oh yeah, of course.
You make an excellent point, Isaac, because in 1978 was considered their best team. That's one of the 5 greatest teams of all time. That was the year he was MVP, and they had 2, Rocky Bleier and Franco Harris, 2,000-yard rushers. Swan, Stallworth, maybe the best player of the 70s, Mean Joe Green. He was the MVP of that year. It just shows how remarkable the man was.
Yeah, he really kind of blossomed in the late 70s. Statistically, he had 4 straight seasons over 20 touchdowns passing. He didn't have that from 70 to 77. It was the defense that helped win the first 2, and then their defense was still great, but it was more Bradshaw, and that's one of the reasons he made my top 10. When I was looking at it, I kind of thought it was all defense, and there we go. Hey, Sam, what's up, dude?
Just to let you know, Sam, there are no Tennessee Titan quarterbacks on my top 10 list.
Sorry, buddy. Steve McNair was awesome, but no. Will Levis definitely doesn't make it. Do you guys want to do reverse order? Or you want to stick with the same order? I really don't care.
We can
same order we're doing.
Great. That's fine.
Cool. All right. Who were your Mike's? Who were some of your honorable mentions before we go on to number 9?
Terry Bradshaw was one, only because there were 10 I like better. I mean, I'm taking nothing away from all 4 of these, all four of these people. I have Aaron Rodgers. I would have put him in there, but he didn't have a great playoff record, so he put him a little above the 10 I have. I consider Dan Marino, but I don't have him in there because this is what, and I want to share this with you because this is going to shock a lot of people. I do blame him for not winning a Super Bowl because in 3 of the 4 games he played, 1 Super Bowl and 2 NFL AFC championships, not just a team, he got destroyed. A lot of those interceptions were near the end zone, and in the one he did well against, he did horrible against the 49ers. But I also want to mention Brett Favre, but the only thing he kept him off was he threw a few too many interceptions. But all 4 of those are honorable mentions.
I like that. Actually, trust me, you'll understand why later.
I'm looking forward to it.
I like it. All right. We'll have Med go in a second, but Mike, what is your number 9? Who is your number 9 quarterback?
I'm going back 85 years to Slinging Sammy Baugh. Now, this is why, like in basketball, when you talk about Jerry West, and one of the great things that makes him great, Sammy Baugh is the Jerry West of football. He had such a great impact on the game, and for his time, this man rarely threw an interception, and he was completion percentage leader 8 times. He won 2 championships, and I think he did all this while he was punting and intercepting the balls as well. But he was, even though he had we all have bad, except for some people. I'll mention a couple people. He had one horrible, embarrassing game where he lost 73-0, but he was one of the pioneers and a great one at that. And what an impact he had.
I like it.
I'm
great,
working
great
on
answer.
banners.
I like it. No, I can tell. Med, do you want me to go or you got this one?
You go and go. You said Sammy Baugh, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I've got this is the only quarterback. Let me make sure I'm saying that. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. This is the only quarterback on my top 10 who did not win a Super Bowl. I just couldn't leave Dan Marino off it. The dude was. You can hold it against him that he didn't win a Super Bowl early on, but the stats, and I know it was just for a few seasons, but the stats the dude put up and the arm strength he had, he looked like a quarterback playing today back in the 80s and 90s. That's what I thought. I was like, he looks like a modern day pocket passer. The arm strength, the accuracy, he's one of the best pure passers in NFL history. The fact that the guy threw for 48 touchdowns in 5,000 yards over 40 years ago, and he backed it up with another 40 touchdown season. And then later in his career in the 90s, he had a comeback player of the year and 30 touchdowns. The dude was awesome. You can't hold him against him that the defense was never there. The running game didn't come through in the Super Bowl when he needed them to. There's a lot of great players that haven't won Super Bowls. This is a team sport more so than the NBA where you can hold it even more against a guy. He has so many NFL records when he retired, and he still holds so many. If we're just talking pure quarterbacks, I couldn't leave Dan Marino off my list. So Dan Marino's number 9 for me.
Nice. All right. So my number 9 is actually someone that I just can't really stand. And Packer fans probably feel that way too.
What's up?
I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers because this dude, yes, he's a butt nugget. He is definitely not the most popular person, but what he is he's a very good player. And, he's a 4-time MVP. He has the record for the touchdown to interception ratio of 4.3 to 1 interception every time he's out there. Iconic moments, the I own you to the Chicago fans is definitely one that really kind of stirs it up. And, of course, he has the discount double check. I watched it so many times as a Bears fan. It was kind of sickening. And, he kind of made a Hail Mary a legitimate, like anytime he was in the backfield, you always felt like, he had a chance to win the game. And he'd had 4 Hail Marys that actually resulted in them winning the game on the very last play with a career 34 career come from behind victories. So, even though I don't really care for him, 4 MVPs, a 12-10 postseason record, I'm going to have to put Aaron Rodgers as my number 9.
Who were your honorable mentions, by the way, really quick?
Fran Tarkenton would be one. I would actually say Roger Staubach would be another. Sid Luckman was actually a really good
Good pick.
quarterback way back in the day. I do have one that's actually in my list further down, like even earlier than that. And I would say, just off the top of my head, Ben Roethlisberger, I think, is hugely underrated sometimes because he's got really good stats, and those would be four that I would say are my honorable mentions.
And 2 Super Bowls too. I love it. Good list, guys. I like it. Med, that must have really hurt to put a Packer on there. I love that you were unbiased.
Yeah,
he actually did make my top 10. But
I don't think you have to worry about many Bears being on the list.
No, definitely not.
You had one as honorable mention, though. That counts.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go.
Good luck, man.
sorry, Sammy. No Titans. I did love Steve McNair. He was special, but not quite. All right, Mike. Who's your number 8 all time?
You'll love this, Izac. Bart Starr.
Ooh.
Nice. He got close for me.
I got to tell you why. He won 2 Super Bowls, but he won 5 championships. NFL championships are no slouch either. He actually threw 294 passes with no interceptions. Yes, he had Jim Taylor and a wonderful line, but the only reason why anyone can mention another receiver on that team is because Max McGee had a famous Super Bowl catch. He didn't have the supporting cast that a lot of people have. And he was clutch. There was a show from NFL on YouTube with 10 clutch quarterbacks. It showed how clutch he was. The Ice Bowl. If he couldn't throw in the 1 yard line, he'd run in the 1 yard line. Plus, the impact he had in the 60s in that team. He even talked back to Lombardi, who used to be the greatest coach ever sometimes. So Bart Starr is my number 8.
Dude, I wanted to put him on mine. I really did. Great. I mean, I get it. The only reason why for me was there was only 16 teams in the NFL in the 60s. And he had Vince Lombardi. And the level of amount of competition, it still matters that you won a championship, but I don't weigh it as heavily as even the 70s when they expanded. Because they expanded
reasonable, but I think he'd do great in any decade.
No, I agree with that. I think he would be the prototypical game manager. I mean, he had one hell of a backfield duo between Paul Humberg and I'm trying to think of the other guy. But thank you. I mean, that was like the running back duel of the century at that point. And, I really do like Bart Starr right here. He definitely upped his game in high pressure moments. He was the perfect quarterback for anyone who needed someone at that position. So I like that.
And called his own plays and called the Ice Bowl quarterback sneak. That was his call and did it.
And many people think
Sam,
that
you are
a
good
game
to
of
go.
all time, and he had to play in that game that really made the difference.
He did. I love your list, Mike. Med, I love your list. Who you got number 8, bud?
So kind of what you already said. Dan Marino is my number 8, and the main reason why is because he just didn't really have postseason success. His first 4 seasons, amazing for first 4 seasons. But when you're drafted by the Super Bowl runner-up from the previous year, you should be able to actually get in there a little bit more than just one time. Mike Essen kind of put it up out there, outside of this. I mean, other than the chip on the shoulder that he had, with every 5 other players being, he was the 5th quarterback. Sorry, I'm stumbling. 5th quarterback picked in the 83 draft. In fact, Ken O'Brien was a Division II quarterback that was picked before him. And it got to the point where even Dan Marino looked over at his agent and was like, hey, who is Ken O'Brien? He didn't even know who he was. That tells you something. But it was also because a lot of people thought he was on drugs.
Yes.
But I mean, he was a good quarterback. He had some iconic moments of himself. It just wasn't anything involving a Super Bowl. And it is what it is. I mean, he should have won one. And if you look at the stats, you see the first 4 or 5 years, he was amazing. And then he had very pedestrian stats after that. That's just me being honest. I know that's like being hypercritical, but Dan Marino was 8-10 in the postseason. And that's what postseason is a big deal for me.
Fair. I like it. His arm, his cannon of an arm was one of the reasons I put him up there. He had
Great
one of the
release.
strongest arms, maybe the strongest arm in NFL history, and he was really good at evading the pass rush too. But his running game failed him, his defense failed him. So I've got Staubach here at 8. I had to have a Cowboy up here. This dude was not quite Fran Tarkenton, but he was pretty elusive. He was kind of before his time. Like he could have played in today's NFL, in my estimation. Stats aren't outstanding, but he still, threw for 45 more TDs than interceptions. In the playoffs, he raised his game. He really did. He played very well. They kind of rode their defense to 2 Super Bowls, but you know what? He still won 2 in the 70s. That's 2 more than the Cowboys fans would die for those 2 right now. Mm-hmm. So it's 2 Super Bowls that they would love to have. And I had to put him up here. I think he was a better overall quarterback than Troy Aikman. And I think one Dallas Cowboy deserved to be up there, considering they've won 5 Super Bowls. And this was post-merger, so there were over 20 teams in the NFL. And that was one reason. Starr is a good argument. I almost put him there instead of Staubach, but that's why Staubach made it for me.
I like that.
Ooh, Peter's
amazing.
List. That's interesting. Check this out really quick before we do our next round. Mahomes, Roethlisberger, Marino, Young, Eli. Interesting. Breeze, Elway, Peyton, Brady, Montana.
I think the most unpopular one right there would be Eli.
Yeah.
I never heard anyone say he's in the top 10, but Peter, your view is respected.
I like that. Yes, sir.
Like Janae, you freaking rock. It's nice to see you. Happy anniversary, Med. It was his anniversary Friday.
Anniversary, Med.
Number 10. Yeah, thank you. She deserves a reward of her. She is our MVP. She puts up with a lot. Let's just put it that way.
Me and my wife had it was funny. We were celebrating my birthday early too, so we both had great weekends. All right, I'm excited to hear the rest of this because I think we're gonna have a lot in common
to change
in the
a
top
little bit. Yeah.
5. I think we're gonna have some differences here, but I think the top 5 are gonna be similar. Mike, who's your number 7 in all
John
time?
Elway. And I want to talk about why he is so high. This man, first of all, just let's talk about his abilities. This was like if you had to make a robo QB, the guy could run, he had a cannon for an arm, and he had more comebacks. I'm not talking about, I know not every comeback is created equal, but he had more comebacks than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And in the 80s, when he didn't win the championship, like Marino, he had 3 receivers, Ricky Nattiel, Vance Johnson, and Mark Jackson, who were forgotten today, and he had received Sewell as a running back. So he did a lot with a little, including the drive. Sorry, Browns fans. I know Marty Schottenheimer and you guys don't like this guy, but later he won 2 Super Bowls and was just so amazing. I mean, I remember that iconic play. Sorry, Izac, against the Packers where he just dove, and then when he played Atlanta, he decimated them. This guy is number 7. He is one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time, and he was the first pick in the Marino draft. Above all of them, above Jim Kelly and Todd Blackledge, Todd who, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
John Elway was my 7th pick.
No, I like that. I mean, and of course he was the number 1 pick by the Baltimore Colts when he actually had that, and he was really the first player that really caused a lot of controversy by simply saying, "I'm not playing for you because you suck." And that's really and truthfully, I like this pick. I'm really interested to see what you have after this because John Elway, I know he's going to be on mine and Isaac's list a little bit higher, but I do like him at 7. I mean, like you said, highly respected list. Anyone who wants to actually say their own list, please, by all means, share it with us.
Eli or no Eli?
You know what? The Eli thing, though, I didn't think about him there, but who else can say they beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, no.
In that season, too.
Yeah. I mean, he prevented a lot. He prevented the Miami Dolphins from sharing champagne every year when the last team loses. So
exactly.
He made Larry Zonka happy, I'll say that, and many other Dolphins.
Guys, this is fun. We got to do more of these. This is cool. I'm enjoying this. It's nice to just look back at NFL history. I've actually never gotten to do an episode like this, Matt. I know you've been part of a couple. I haven't done any of these yet. This is great.
Love these.
Great list, Mike. Med, who's your number 7?
So my number 7 is not that one,
I think I know who
but
might be.
it is that one right there. Drew Brees is my number 7
Yeah.
because, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Breezes over here. This is the guy that had 5,000 yard seasons. But this is 5,000 is such a godly stat because it's not one that was really expected to be eclipsed in a 16 game season. Now, 17 games, you're talking that one extra game, an extra 300 yards possibly, but you're talking about a 16 game season where this man threw for 350 yards per game. That's what you have to average out to get to the 5,000 stat. He's a 13-time Pro Bowler, 7-time passing yards champ, 54 straight games with a touchdown. I mean, the list goes on, and I think a lot of times, I mean, he's the first player to ever have over 80,000 yards, both regular season and playoffs. Stats on stats, ladies and gentlemen. He was only 99 in the postseason, but he did get that one Super Bowl, and he would have probably got 2 if not for the no call when the Rams receiver tackled the Saints player before. Yeah, it was a crime. And another interesting fact is he almost became a Miami Dolphin. So, if he would have been able to do this, you're possibly looking at someone that could have dethroned Dan Marino as the greatest Dolphin of all time. And the only reason why he did not become a Dolphin was because he failed a physical test. And the Dolphins doctor said he was not liable to play, which caused him to go to the Saints. And Nick Saban to go to Alabama. So, number 7, Drew Brees. Thank you.
Love you. I love the background, man. Guess what? My number 7 is also Drew Brees. For all the reasons Med just said. The only reason I had him down at 7 is because there would be some times he'd occasionally have an off game. Every quarterback does, but there was occasionally like he'd throw for 5 TDs and he was better at home. And then he would kind of fall off on the road occasionally. But this dude might be the most accurate quarterback in NFL history. At his peak, he scared people. He scared the opponents he was going to play against. Med already nailed it. 5,000 yards. He had 2 seasons over 40 TDs. He had another one at 39, another one at 37 late in his career. I know that the defense, I feel like if Peyton had focused just a little bit more on the defense, they could have gotten a second ring. And he was that run where he put up, I mean, it was only 730 yards, but he had 8 TDs, no interceptions in that Super Bowl run, those 3 games. That's pretty special. There's a reason he won that one. He's got a lot of NFL records. Over 80,000 yards, 571 touchdowns. And honestly, he was a little bit underrated as he could move around the pocket pretty well. Not known as a runner, but great pocket presence. Yeah, I had him at number 7 and I almost bumped him up, but I think this is the perfect spot for him.
And another cool thing about Drew Brees is a lot of people don't look at the pictures whenever he's throwing the ball, and you'll notice that he was only 6 foot tall, so he had a tippy toe every time he threw the ball. Imagine if he was just 2 inches taller and could actually put a lot more power into his throw. Just think about that for a second.
And another thing I want to mention is he didn't get this attention until he broke records because he was a small market team. I used to watch the games thinking, why don't they talk about this guy more? I'm glad he's on your list. He was close to mine by going Big Ten.
Yeah, no, and that's the difficult thing about this is, I've done top 15s, which you can put them in, but even then, this is no slouch. It's not an insult to be 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. These are the top players that we look at and we're like, holy cow. These are the guys that kind of rocked it out for us. I mean, one of the things, with Dan Marino was I actually liked the duels he would have with Jim Kelly. And, when the whole Buffalo Bills versus Dolphins throughout the 90s and the late 80s, I mean, that was primetime TV for me. So, I mean, that's why I enjoy this. It kind of makes me think of back when I was a lot younger than I am now. So,
no, I get it, dude. The Peyton and Tom Brady stuff. That's why I'm hoping Burrow can get healthy and give us some more duels, Burrow and Mahomes, or Josh Allen if he could actually beat Mahomes once. But it's great when you get those quarterbacks in that all-time epic rivalry. I get it, dude. Seriously.
Mr. Eisen, what do you got for your number 6?
Patrick Mahomes. And I'll explain to you why he is this high. Okay, even Brady and even the great ones, even other people have on my list had bad championship games. Mm-hmm. But in the 8 years he's played, he's a comeback kid, 3 Super Bowl champions, the MVP, 3 MVPs. And if you look at his numbers now, because it is early even with 8 years, and Brady's in his first 8 years, they match up pretty well. And even though he had Tyreek Hill in the beginning, he doesn't have Hill now. He has only Travis Kelce. The way he scrambles, he can run 25 yards down the field with nobody open. He throws about 5,000 yards a year. He's my number 6 choice. I think he'll be higher by the end of his career, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, no, and you're going to hear his name a couple more times too, because we're starting to get this. And Janae, thank you. Yes, I got your message. I do appreciate it. She actually sung "Happy Anniversary" to me and my wife. I really love that. That was awesome.
That's amazing. I love Janae. We're gonna have you back on soon, but
yeah,
we got before we go. If not before hiatus, before the season for sure. Dude, I agree with the Mahomes Mike really quick. And also, Janae, you're amazing. I thought she was talking about the AJ Dillon thing. That's funny. I didn't know she's saying your anniversary. That's great. Mahomes, dude, I get it. Mike, I actually had him higher, but I understand nobody started their career this well ever in NFL history with this much postseason success. It's never happened this quickly. Brady did not make this many Super Bowls this early on. He didn't. So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends. I agree. Yeah, Med, who's your number 6, bud?
So I've been kind of teasing it a little bit, and, I really dug a little bit into the past because, at the very end of the day, you have to be able to remember the players of yesteryear. And I am very proud to actually say that I did some homework on this, and I went with Mr. Automatic Otto Graham. Ladies and gentlemen, this man went to 10 straight championship games and won 7 of them. I mean, they didn't even have playoffs back then, so you can't really sit there and say that his postseason record is all that. No, it's still impressive. I mean, 7-3 for your postseason record is just simply amazing. I mean, and you played for the juggernaut, which was the Cleveland Browns of that timeline. At one time, I mean, he holds the record for the highest winning percentage of any quarterback in any era in the NFL. And, this was, maybe he handed the ball off to some great players and everything like that, but he was the man. And just to quote the infamous Peyton Manning, who one time said the most valuable player is the one that makes most players valuable. This man did it. 7 championships.
Great pick. He'll be on my list sometime, somewhere on there. But I love your pick.
You know what's funny is I did a lot of research and I almost put Autogram in there. And when I found out he won 7 and he won 7
every year that he played.
That's just ridiculous. And check this out. This is another NFL record of his. Most career yards per passing attempt, 8.6. He actually leads the NFL in that still. Mm-hmm. Isn't that crazy?
And it's a player from the 50s and 60s.
Something interesting trivia about Otto Graham I want to mention. To talk about what a winner he was, he actually played in the NBA for the Rochester Royals one year for them.
Yes, he did.
Talk about the Bo Jackson of his time.
Yeah, I was going to say he won an NBA championship, didn't he?
Yes, he did in the Rochester Royals.
Wow,
that's crazy.
Let's just marinate in that for a second.
He also was a 3-time MVP in the 50s. He led the NFL in passing yards twice. And he led the NFL in passing TDs. That's why I put Bradshaw on mine. And Graham was this close. I was right there with him. Like he was teetering at 11. So I get it, dude. You're gonna hate mine. But I had
Jake Cutler.
No, I was trying to be as unbiased as possible. But Aaron Rodgers is one of the best throwers of the football I've ever seen. He's I'm just going to say the word. He's a complete dick. I don't like him as a person. He annoys the heck out of me. I don't curse much on this show, but this guy's a jerk. No, he doesn't. And I don't like him as a person at all anymore. So this
But as a player.
God, he was special. He just was. I wanted to put Favre there, but Rodgers was just better. He just was. I wish he did more in the playoffs. There, you can't put it all on the Packers. He really let me down with that last one against San Fran. There were multiple times he let me down in the playoffs, but he still is a 4-time MVP. He would have even more NFL records if he had played the first 3 years and he missed most of another season. But this guy just, dude, his pinpoint accuracy at times. No, he's not the same player anymore. There's a reason the Steelers don't want him. I don't think anybody really wants him now, but he's 41. So there's only one guy in NFL history who's been good in his 40s, and it was Tom Brady. But when Rodgers was at his apex, dude, 48 touchdowns in his late 30s. Nobody else has done that. 45 TDs early on. That early run with the Packers was special. I wish he had more postseason success, but still 11-10 is no scrub. He has a winning record in the playoffs. He just edged Breeze for me, just barely. And honestly, if Breeze had been 6'2", Breeze would be right there. But I put Aaron Rodgers up there. I had to.
No, I'm fine with it because, I mean, I respect game. And, you know, even as a Bears fan, yes, I still can't stand him. But, I mean, he is great. And you have to, I respect that. So, no, him being at 6, that's fine with me, dude.
And he's a better quarterback than Favre. He didn't throw the picks while still putting up the stats and leading the team to the playoffs. A lot of subpar teams, he was leading the conference championships, and he did get that one Super Bowl. So
I just want to say, correct one thing. One other player was good in his 40s. George Blanda had some good years in his 40s.
Very true. Very true.
Warren Moon also had a good season. Favre was good at that age 40 season. He would turn 40. He was still awesome with the Vikings. So they're got, you know, and then obviously Tom Brady. There's guys who have done it.
It's the avocado ice cream.
It's that avocado ice cream. So I just want to recap really quick. So Mike, you had Staubach, Bauer, Starr, Elway, and Mahomes, right?
Ball, you said, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Med, you had Bradshaw, Rodgers, Marino, Breeze, and Graham, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I had Bradshaw, Marino, Staubach, Breeze, and Rodgers. This is going to be fun. All right.
I'm keeping on top of it for the most part.
I like it. I see that. Dude, you're killing it tonight. I love it. Mike, who is your fifth quarterback?
Peyton Manning. No, I'm taking. Well, most people have him a little higher. I'm taking nothing away from him. I just like 4 quarterbacks better. But this is how amazing Peyton Manning was. Not only did he have 5 MVPs, but people used to say when he won that Super Bowl against Chicago in 2006, look, he has Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne. When he went down with that serious injury, the team went 2-14, had to get Andrew Luck. He also, I mean, though I'm not as big a Marino fan as you guys. He was a runner-up, so we're not that far off. He was one of the best pure passers in the game. The sheriff, as they called him, really turned that team around in 2 years. And when he went to Denver, even though Brock Osweiler it was an Earl Morrow, Bob Greasy, people know what I'm talking about. In the 72 undefeated season, Earl Morrow played the games. Greasy went to the playoffs. But the playoffs are what matters. And he went to the playoffs and defeated an almost undefeated Carolina team. He is my number 5 choice. I just like 4 quarterbacks better, but he's number 5.
So I won't get your number 5 by accident. When I hit the edit button, it just cleared it out. So your number 8 was?
His number 8 was Starr.
Okay.
Starr, yeah.
I'm writing them down.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I got you, man.
Not Eli, Peyton.
If you want to put, do it in the private chat if you can, Isaac.
Oh, yeah.
Or just text it to me if you can.
I got you. I'll type it in there. You need his, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta give him his shine. I know 6 was Patrick Mahomes.
How do you spell Bauer's name?
Baugh, Sammy Baugh.
Oh, Baugh. That's right.
Yeah, Sammy Baugh, which was 9. 8 was Bart Starr. 10 was Roger Staubach. 6 was Patrick Mahomes. 5 is Peyton Manning.
Yes.
And I just need number 7.
Oh, John Elway. John Elway.
Thank you. And that's it. That's all I need.
Gotcha.
Hopefully this time I won't delete it.
Ned, you want me to go? You want me to?
Yes, please. Please go.
All right. I got one of my favorite players in NFL history. I'm going to shock you guys. my aunt, who is like my mom, passed away a little over a year ago, and her favorite player was John Elway. And this isn't just for her. I think he is the 5th best quarterback in NFL history. He led 3 subpar teams to the Super Bowl. That's more than Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre did, or Dan Marino. That's more than a bunch of guys below him on the list. It's actually more than Peyton Manning, who I have even higher to tease my list. But no, John Elway makes it because I know Terrell Davis was the driving force of those late 90s teams, but the dude was 14-7 in the playoffs. He was 7-7 before Terrell Davis came along. And over 50,000 passing yards, 300 TDs through his career, was great into his late 30s. Not a lot of quarterbacks were. Only 4,000 passing yards once, but it was still an era where you could rip dudes down pretty easily. Just a steady quarterback who, like Joe Montana, was not afraid of the moment. I give bonus points here for clutch gene. This is why he's ahead of Aaron Rodgers. It was close for me, but Elway wins because of clutch gene, and he did win back-to-back and then got to retire. And I think he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in NFL history. He had a cannon. He was a great scrambler, ahead of his time, and I loved how poised he was in the moment. There's so much that could be said there, but that scramble, that passing attack wasn't very good in that Super Bowl. He had only 123 yards. He only completed 10 passes in that first Super Bowl win over Green Bay. He didn't really have a very good game. No passing TDs, a pick, but he did have a rushing touchdown, and he made the play when they needed it, the scramble, the helicopter. It was iconic for a reason. He's my number 5 quarterback.
And what's interesting about that is he is also my number 5 quarterback. And the reason why he didn't really have that many rushing yards is he actually had a hurt arm throughout the whole year. He actually injured it during the American Bowl that was hosted in Mexico City in that preseason. And he opted not to have surgery with it, so he let it heal without surgery. And so, I mean, you look at the athleticism of this quarterback. This man used to be able to throw a baseball from home plate over the outfield wall in right field. It was a challenge for him. He used to win $5 each time he did it. And, you know, as far as he is concerned, like Mr. Eisen talked about earlier, he dragged 3 Bronco teams to the Super Bowl.
Yes, he did.
Pretty much solely on his own ability. And when you think about the fact that he didn't really have a true rushing attack until Terrell Davis came in later on down in his career, he was able to go back-to-back. He made the Atlanta Falcons pay, especially Robinson, who paid in other ways too before the Super Bowl. But he was the Super Bowl MVP of his second Super Bowl. So he was able to walk away and right off into the sunset of a very storied career. John Elway is by far, he cracked my number 5 with no problems.
And he won them another Super Bowl getting Peyton and was the GM, even though he failed afterwards. He got that historic defense in 2015. So as a GM, he made an impact as well, which I love.
He's got a brilliant football mind. You saw what he played, you saw as a GM, absolutely.
So we got 4 quarterbacks left, Mike. Who's your number 4?
Mount Rushmore here, yeah.
Mount Rushmore time.
Yeah, my number 4 you're asking?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Unitas. I'm going to explain why he's this high.
All right.
They didn't throw the ball very much in the 50s or 60s like they did today. And he, in his 2-minute drill was almost his, if he had a nickname, it'd be the 2-minute drill. Again, that famous game against the Giants in 58, he did it then. He did it in 50. He did it in 1970. I know he had incredible passes to the great John Mackey when he was quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I think it was 58. He had 57 or 58. He had 3 championships. And this is the amazing thing about him. He didn't throw the ball much back then, as I was saying. He had 47 games straight with a touchdown, which I know it's been broken, but it's a much more passing-oriented game now. So I kind of put a semi-asterisk next to it because that was equivalent, as Pete, you've heard this before, but I'm going to say it again. Repetition is learning. To Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak. This guy was amazing. And also he he threw the ball a lot for back then. He didn't even have he like Marino. He was sort of immobile, sort of hurt, and I put him number 4. He's that high to me. He's one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, he won it in 58, 59, and 68. The 3-time champion, and he won Super Bowl 5. So 4.
Yes.
He won 4 championships.
4 championships. Yes.
And it's talks like this where you sit there and you kind of look at your own list and you kind of rethink everything after you hear it, because Johnny Unitas, I mean, Captain Crew Cut himself, I mean, he had Raymond Berry, he had, like you said, Mackey, he had so many players, played in the greatest game ever played against the New York Giants, and one of the most iconic games where he handed off a dive for a touchdown. And a lot of people really credit that game as the game that really launched the NFL into the stratosphere, because it was one of the first televised games to ever be played in the NFL. I like that pick. That is an awesome pick.
Thank you, man.
So my number 4, you're going to hear some more current names now. I really feel like a D because I forgot to put Unitas. Definitely would be an honorable mention, but it's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we're watching it. I mean, you touched up on it earlier, Mr. Mike. This man, 8 seasons, all he's done is win. Every single season that he's played, he's been in at least, as a starter, the AFC Championship game. And if there is an offense that is totally tailored to, it is like Bart Starr with Vince Lombardi. When you think of Patrick Mahomes with Andy Reid, it is a perfect fit. And, 3 Super Bowls, 2 he lost. But, I mean, you're talking about the whole team demographic. Everyone always says it's a team sport as far as who you get Super Bowl. Look at what's going on right now, people. Quarterback is by far the most important position on the field at this moment in the NFL. And this young man is potentially, he's only halfway through his career. He's only 28. And, to see what he's done, we're already talking about him being number 4 on my list. He was number 6 on Mr. Mike's list. I'm pretty sure he's going to be up there as well on Izac's list. This dude is just amazing. We need to really just kind of, instead of hating on him, but for the fact that, we're getting winner's fatigue, enjoy the fact of what he's doing. This man, it's just amazing. No look touchdown passes, behind the back throws. It's like watching Brett Favre again when he was out there as a kid playing backyard football. This man is that good. And, we have a lot of great quarterbacks. This could be the golden age that we're watching. So Patrick Mahomes heads my list. He's still, in my opinion, the greatest quarterback in the NFL right at this moment. Number 4, Patrick Mahomes.
Dude, I literally just crossed it out. I had Peyton Manning here, but I think I'm going to put Mahomes at 4. It was close. He'll be 30 this year. The fact that he's won 3 Super Bowls and he's been to 5 before age 30 is stupid. And the only reason I put Peyton higher is because it's only half a career, and that kind of weighed with me. But what he's done in this half a career, and the other thing, I want to see what you guys think of this, man. The other reason I had Mahomes here is because the 2 times he ran into Brady, he lost, and Peyton had that continuous problem, and that was Brady in his 40s. So I feel like if you flip-flopped and you had Mahomes in Peyton Manning's shoes in the same era against Brady, I think he would have had the same problems if he'd been on that Colts team. You can't really hold it against Peyton that he was going up against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. It was almost unfair. Even with some of the weapons he had, he never had the defense. He had one really awesome running back, but there's a reason he only got 1 with the Colts, and then he got that late one. I just think Peyton's commanded the offense. What he was able to do over his career, that's why I have him just above Mahomes. Mahomes gets 4 because, he's dipped statistically the last 2 years, but who wouldn't without Tyreek Hill? And he still won back-to-back Super Bowls with 41 TDs after they traded Tyreek Hill away. That's stupid. 50 TDs in a season. His first year as a starter. He is 89-23 as a starter in the regular season. That's stupid. He has an argument to be top 2 already. This is ridiculous. He's 17-4 in the playoffs. He's only lost 4 playoff games. He has more playoff wins than most dudes did in their entire careers. There's an argument for him to be higher, but out of respect to Peyton Manning, I put Patrick Mahomes at 4.
And I mean, you still look at it, the simple fact that, when we're talking about Mahomes, I just basically just gave him a ring and endorsement, but everyone is. And I mean, I think it cooled down with the whole, is he going to be greater than Tom Brady when this past Super Bowl happened? He didn't look good, but you really look at what he had. He has an aging tight end in Kelsey, who did not look like Kelsey of old. He had a rookie. His best receiver on that Super Bowl squad was a rookie. And, he just really and truthfully, he carried the offense for the past 2 years. It's arguable that the Chiefs are more of a defensive team right now. And if they didn't have Mahomes, they would not be in the position that they would be in every season.
No, I think in all our lists, eventually he'll be higher. He just, but he's the fact that he's 30 and he's this high in all our lists. This man is one of the best players in sports, period.
That's just stupid what he's done. Like the fact there's only one dude currently in the NFL who's even beat him in the playoffs. That's ridiculous. Like Josh Allen's amazing. He's probably the best, most talented Bills quarterback in their franchise history. And he can't beat Mahomes. Lamar Jackson hasn't been able to get by Mahomes, and he's going to end up being one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. Lamar Jackson, multiple-time MVP, and he can't get by Mahomes.
Oof.
It's crazy. Wow. Interesting,
Peter.
This one, though, really quick. Russell Wilson didn't sniff my top 10.
He might be not even sniffing my top 25.
I'm with Matt on that. As good as he is, Peter, and you're probably a Seahawks fan, and I respect your knowledge.
Oh no, he's a Bears.
Quarterbacks I'd put above him.
He's a Bears fan.
As good as he is.
Yeah, that kind of brings me to another question. I want to get back to that a little bit later after we're done with our list, and we'll highlight that question right there. So I'm on blue star that bad boy.
Cool. Top 3, Mike. Who is your third quarterback in NFL?
Automatic autogram, and I'm gonna play off what Med said. How else do you measure a quarterback, but winning championships? And I want to point out a few. He mentioned the statistics about the highest completion percentage, yards per completion, 8.3. Now, I know he had Marion Motley, but his best receiver was Dante Lavelli, a good but not great receiver during those years. Now, let's equate this to when in '68, when Namath and the Jets beat the Colts, and when the Chiefs beat the Vikings in '69. He played for the AAFC, but he proves he could be here. He could do the same thing in the NFL. In the AAFC, he quarterbacked his team to an undefeated season of 13-0. And when he first, and I mean, he was accurate, he was clutch. But when you win 7 championships in 10 years, the other 3 you go there. He was close to making my number 2, but I think I'll explain to you why he didn't. But I just have to put this guy way up there. I think, and also it was not a passing era. People forget that. I mean, we don't forget it, but a lot of people do. I think he was he was like the Bill Russell, the great basketball player of football. They played a while ago, less teams, but they knew how to get it done.
Yep. No, I have no problems with that at all. I mean, and then in some ways, like I said earlier, and I commented, is whenever I listen to other people's list and I hear some of the people they put on at certain points, it makes me like sit there and be like, wow, did I really put the guy in the right spot? So.
No, I get it, dude. I hear this stuff about Graham, and I read a lot on him earlier because I wanted to make the best list I could. But this is subjective stuff. Otto Graham and Johnny Unitas were great. Seriously. Mm-hmm. And Bo, dude, seriously, this is a great list. There's good arguments for a lot of quarterbacks here. I wanted to respect NFL history. I almost threw some older guys up there. It was tough to leave some of them off, honestly. But Russell Wilson's not one that, sorry, Peter, I love you, but I couldn't no on Peter Russell. Honestly, Ben Roethlisberger, as good as he is, didn't even get close for me. He was like 4 or 5 away.
I like what you're highlighting. He was so underrated. He gets 5,000 yards got 5,002 rings. I mean, he was amazing.
He really was, and he's probably closer to like 15. I like it.
Love it.
Med, who is your third quarterback in NFL history?
Probably my most favorite player of all time. And I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. There's a reason why I went up to Canton, Ohio to watch Peyton Manning get abducted. He is by far my favorite player of all time. He is the absolute general on the field. He is the sheriff. This man had pinpoint accuracy. When you really sit there and think about what kind of mistake the Indianapolis Colts almost did by drafting Ryan Leaf over Peyton Manning, it is just like crazy to really sit there and think about it. He is the record holder for the most MVPs in the NFL. He has 5. That's how important. And it really kind of like an exclamation point. The year that he went out for his neck surgery, that it then transitioned to Andrew Luck, they went from a 14-2 team to a 2-14 team.
Jacob.
Get that out of here.
There's another podcast called Cheeseheads and the Bear. That's cool. I like it.
Oh, I like that. Hey, you need to talk to y'all then.
Yeah, I've met some people on Instagram. But sorry, keep going.
He also has the most seasons with 14 4,000-yard passing seasons. I mean, I can sit here and go on and on about some of his accolades. I mean, they would read a mile long, but if I take all the juice, I'm not giving any to Izac because I'm pretty sure I know what his next 3 players are because mine and his is probably the same.
Yeah, actually.
and then probably the same order. So
yeah, you might have to let me go first on one of them.
Yeah.
No, they're exactly the same.
That.
It's Peyton Manning. He's like I want to see what you think of this, Med. He's like a Drew Brees plus to me. He's bigger though. If Brees was taller, that might have been what Peyton Manning was. The only difference is Peyton's audibles and his command of the field were ridiculous. And who else in NFL history? I want to maybe you guys know this. Who else is a Super Bowl MVP, an MVP? I know he has 5-time, and a comeback player of the year. Has that happened ever?
Not that I can remember.
I think he might be the only guy to have all 3 of those because he had that comeback player of the year after the neck surgeries. But to be a Super Bowl MVP, won 2 rings, obviously most MVPs in NFL history. But the fact that he pulled off that trifecta, I don't know if there's another guy who did it. In that second little late run with the Broncos, I think solidified him in the top 5. I've got him as 3rd. If the Broncos had anything resembling a defense, they may have won multiple rings, but they geared away from the offense and went defense heavy. And yes, he rode their coattails to the last ring, but that's no slight to Peyton. He had 55 touchdowns with the Broncos in a season. That's just video game like numbers. 5,477 yards. That's just stupid. His career record.
Some people thought Ryan Leaf should have been taking over him. I think Minneapolis very happy about that.
Yeah, and he only had 2 losing seasons in his entire career. That's amazing. Not a lot of guys can say that either. And one was his rookie year, and one was that 2001 year early on before they surrounded him with talent. Just stupid stats. His career record is incredible: 186 and 79. He's one of my favorite. Actually, Med, I want to be honest with you. The Packer guys, as much as I love them, they're both douches. So Peyton Manning and John Elway are my 2 favorite quarterbacks in NFL history, actually.
That's actually my 2 favorite too.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean,
they really are.
I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and John Elway, like legit. I mean, I always wanted one of his Orange Crush jerseys, and I think this might be the year that I buy one. So
the Bo Nix throwback, it was cool to see him with it because it was reminding me of John Elway, dude. I love those Bronco throwbacks are
I love them.
They're one of the best. They really are.
I love that design.
It's
that, and I would say my other favorite one, believe it or not, is the Patriot hiking the football. That is actually one of my favorite ones too.
Another thing I want to mention about Manning, if I may, just the fact that Tom Brady's rival in 1 decade. I mean, that tells you a lot too. That was a real. I mean, you only have a rivalry if the player's worthy of you, and that says a lot I think, about him.
Yeah, and I mean, and just to kind of piggyback on what you just said, think about how many Super Bowls he probably would have went to if Tom Brady wasn't playing at the same time. You know, that's kind of like the argument. A lot of people.
What if? I like that.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that people always talk about with the 1983 draft with Dan Marino. You look at Jim Kelly, you look at John Elway, you look at all the players and all those great quarterbacks that were in the AFC at that point. Yeah, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but they had the best quarterbacks in the AFC at that moment. So, I mean,
it's like that now too.
Yeah, it is.
It's
all
funny.
full circle.
It's weird how that happens. It wasn't like that in the 2000s. I mean, it was in the actually, I would say the 90s was when it shifted because you had Steve Young in the NFC, and you had Brett Favre, and even though you had John Elway, he was starting to age out. Marino was starting to age out. So you had some good ones. Randall Cunningham. That's a good question. I didn't think about him that high, but he was special.
He had a few really good years for the Eagles. Then he came back with the Vikings with Jake Reed, Randy Moss, and Chris Carter. It's a great season and a great receiver. That was one of the greatest teams that never won a championship, 15-1, 1998 Vikings.
Yep. And what was crazy is the only reason why they didn't go to the Super Bowl that year was because the guy, Gary Anderson, who did not miss a single field goal all season, missed pretty much a chip shot.
The Jack Smith syndrome, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes, exactly. And that's what I was going to say when Izac was bringing up the Terry Bradshaw with 4 touchdowns. That was the Jackie Smith Super Bowl. So
it was.
Yes, it was. We got
Mr.
2
Mike.
left. This is going to be great. Thank you, Sports SP, for watching. They've got a great YouTube channel. Go check it out. Shovik Sports, Peter, Cheeseheads, and the Bear. They've got a fun show too. Thanks everybody for watching. This has been great. All right, Mike. I'm really
Joe Montana's number 2. This is one of the 10 best players in NFL history. Period.
I think we've.
I want to say why I picked him above Otto Graham. First of all, I'll tell you why he was. I do consider he had more teams to play against, but people think he had a great supporting cast. Not as good as you think. I mean, he had Rice. Just hear me out for a second.
Mm-hmm.
In his he had 4 Super Bowl wins, and his first 2 Super Bowls in 81 and 84, Rice was in college. In 84, when he had a 15-1 season, he didn't have a 1,000-yard receiver.
Mm-hmm.
If you were behind 13 points in the 5th quarter, he got you the 14. And the most impressive statistic to me about his Super Bowls is 0 interceptions. That's Michael Jordan-esque. And in 1990, when he was playing that championship game against the Giants, Lawrence Taylor knocked him out, and Steve Young fumbled the ball a second later. It's one of those what ifs would have happened. When he played for Kansas City, he got injured in a comeback game, but he is just. I mean, the man's amazing. People complain he threw short passes. If you watch any Super Bowl, he threw long too. He's maybe one of the top 5 players in NFL history. He's easily my number. He's my number 2. As good as Graham was, I think his competition was harder with Montana, and no interceptions in 4 Super Bowls when he could have had more. I think he is easily number 2.
That's a good question right here.
We'll get back to that.
We're gonna hit that in a minute. Sports SP, Mike. It's a great argument. I think we all have the same number 2. Med, is that true?
Well, I was going to ask you if you want to go number 2,
Yeah.
or do you want to go first, number 1?
I'll go here actually. Joe Montana is my number 2, and he actually has an argument for 1, but it just wasn't strong enough for me. 4 to 7, and I don't just like looking at Super Bowl rings. Montana was excellent. I think the reason Brady wins is because he played so late in his career. Montana was great into his late 30s. He actually almost got the Chiefs. He got them to an AFC Conference Championship. Was the last time they were relevant since the 70s until Mahomes came in. And Alex Smith was good, but it was the last time they were really relevant until Mahomes came in over 20 years after that in the mid-90s. But, dude, this guy, Joe Cool, for a reason, just ridiculous, man. That last run in the 80s, he had 11 TDs in 3 games and 800 passing yards. That's just stupid. That in the late 80s to put up those stats, he saved his best for the playoffs. He was really good in the regular season, especially in that era. Had over 30 TDs passing in 1 season. But I know he missed that 91 season, but dude, and really missed 92. He missed 2 seasons in a row, basically. But in the 80s, and 1990, he was stupid talented, and he saved his best for the playoffs and really the Super Bowl. if Tom Brady didn't exist, this would be a definitive argument to be number one. That's what I got.
So what you're telling me?
I didn't save enough juice there. Didn't save enough juice. I went to. I was really. I love Joe Montana.
No. You're good with it because I can still bring the sizzle with a little bit of some information. I mean, you were talking about Joe Cool, and if there's a guy that embodied what you saw when the 80s was going on, you're talking about Journey. You're talking about Magic and Bird, and now you're going to talk about Joe Montana because this guy, like Mr. Mike already touched up on, there was a few seasons where he didn't have the actual GOAT, Jerry Rice, playing with him. There was a few seasons where he was the offense. We're talking about some iconic moments. You're talking about the catch. You're talking about the drive, 92-yard drive where he beat Cincinnati, and the only thing he could say is, "Hey, check it out. That's John Candy down at the other end of the field." He was just never rattled, and other than when the one time when Lawrence Taylor knocked him into oblivion, which then opened up the door for Steve Young. I mean, what can you say about him? I mean, he was the quarterback. I mean, he was picked in the 3rd round. This was back when quarterbacks weren't supposed to be picked in the 1st round. They were all picked in the 3rd round, 4th round, and on back. And, when they finally realized, and Bill Walsh, what he made of it. I mean, we're talking about the offense that is the West Coast that you see in pretty much every team now. So Joe Montana was more than just a player. He actually helped change the game to what we're seeing now. So he's by far number 2 on me.
Thank you, man. And Med, I love the John Candy comment. That was great. When I read that, I said way too much, but when I read that, not today, it was a long time ago, but that's Joe Montana. Who's gonna notice the dude, the comedian up in the stands? So I love it, man. That's a great argument by Peter too.
It is a great argument. We'll see if I agree with it.
I have an argument against that, Peter. And when it comes my turn, but Mr. Eisen, sure go.
Tom Brady is on the Mount Rushmore. He's number 1, of course. He's on the Mount Rushmore of athletes. The only other NFL player I have there is Lawrence Taylor. But here's how great this man is. We know he had 6 rings with the Patriots and 1 with the Bucs. But the first 3 Super Bowls, besides Vinatieri, nobody on the street's going to mention another player on that team. He practically did it by himself. And in between that time, in the first decade, his best years weren't even those. It was the year he took his team undefeated by a one bizarre catch. He didn't win the Super Bowl. But, I mean, that season was up there with Marino's 84 passes. He made Danny Amendola, Wes Welker, and Julian Edelman, 100 catch receivers. Nobody could do that. He won 3 more championships. With besides Rob Gronkowski, he didn't have like the best supporting cast in the world. Then he goes, and then people are saying he was a system, Bill Belichick. You know what happens after that, of course. The rest of the story is Paul Harvey would say. The guy goes to Tampa Bay and doesn't have, Mike Evans was his best supporting player. Gronk came later, and he took an average team and won. His accuracy, his passing, he was easily number 1 quarterback. He is to quarterbacks what Babe Ruth is to ball players. He's easily my number 1. Which is not taking nothing away from the others or Joe Montana, but there's one Tom Brady as QB. I can't imagine anyone ever being better.
Nobody else is playing basketball with Michael Jordan after winning their 6th ring or 7th. I can't remember which one. I think it was the 6th one he won. And him and Jordan are playing 1-on-1. It's Tom Brady, of course. Ned, what you got?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be unanimous with the 2 and 1 picks. It's hard to really go against the facts, but the fact is that Tom Brady went 251 and 82 in his career, and Pete's going to hate this because I've already said it a couple times. Is Bill Belichick benefited from having Tom Brady. And the reason why I say that is Bill Belichick, without Tom Brady, won 83 and 104. And that's not with any like truly scrub quarterbacks. Yeah, you can argue the point with the Patriots, but he had Bernie Kosar over in Cleveland. And, Bernie, yeah, he's not like a top tier dude, but he was still pretty decent. And I mean, NFL MVPs, he has 3. It pales in some of his numbers do pale in comparison to what Peyton Manning was able to put up. But I think also at the same time, it's once again the same thing that I said with Patrick Mahomes. It was winner's fatigue. I mean, this guy, he had the dream life. He had the supermodel wife. He had, he won 6 Super Bowls, soon to be 7 with Tampa Bay. But if you saw the definition of winner, this guy was it. And it wasn't the simple fact. I mean, I remember people being happy about the fact that the Patriots didn't win the Super Bowl or didn't even go. When you go 10 times in the span of 20 years, what's that's telling you? That is a 50% chance you saw this man playing in the biggest game of the year. And, how many stats does he have? It's just sickening. And really and truthfully, him playing those extra couple years down in Tampa Bay, if anything, may have pushed his records to where they're probably going to be unbreakable. Just look at him. And I know Isaac's about to juice the berry on that one. But you know what? Isaac, go ahead and take it away. I already know who your number 1 is, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and pop it up.
So it's Tom Brady, and what's crazy is I was reading on some stuff while you were talking. At one point, he had to hire a sports psychologist. He was 7th on the depth chart in Michigan. As a high schooler, he only completed 53% of his passes in 4 years for only 31 TDs. He didn't do much in high school. He didn't do much in college. He was a 6th round pick, a late 6th round pick. And he came in the NFL as a backup and then seized the moment. And he never looked back because, I mean, seriously, Peter makes a good point. Bledsoe was really good. He led the Pats to a Super Bowl against my Packers. He had a cannon. He was an awesome QB. There was still a question after Brady's season when Bledsoe had to come back in that AFC Conference Championship game, if they should just ride with Bledsoe. He didn't even earn it until when he'd even gotten the team on the footstep of a Super Bowl. They still weren't sure about Brady. The fact that he overcame what he overcame, I know Rice wasn't a first-round pick either, but I love that some of the best players in NFL history, the scouts and the teams got it wrong, and they got it wrong here. Tom Brady is the best player in NFL history because he's won 7. I love Lawrence Taylor. I love Jerry Rice. They're amazing. Barry Sanders. There's so many. We could do an all-time player list at one point. I'd be down. It'd be really tough. That'd be fun. This was great. 649 TDs. What the?
Yeah, no, it's unreal. So we got to touch up on some of these comments. So
absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I could go above Brady forever. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll scroll up back to the top, and
that PSP one was good.
Okay. Well,
Mahomes. It's great taking nothing away from Rodgers, but Mahomes has shown in playoff games that he is just so much better.
I agree. You could give me Rodgers for like maybe a single season, maybe, but no.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I'd go Mahomes too.
I like the one below it. And the main reason why I like that one is I will go ahead and I'll start to answer at least, and anyone wants to answer it as well, by all means. Steve Young didn't start until he was 30 years old for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
And yes, he has some good numbers and everything, but you look at the team that he played on, he had the GOAT and Jerry Rice over on one side. He had William Floyd, he had Ricky Waters, he had, the defense was stacked as well with Dean and Deion Sanders and a few other names that I just can't think of off the top of my head. Steve Young was blessed. And yeah, no, he was a good quarterback, but you look at what he did in Tampa Bay, and then you look at what he did in San Francisco. If he did not go to San Francisco, he probably would not have been a Hall of Famer in my eyes.
It's pretty impressive what he did in an 8-year stretch, though, to get up to 232 TDs, even in the 90s, was pretty outstanding. He really only played 8 full seasons. That's it. That's ridiculous.
I had him.
parts of
I
other
have my
seasons,
top 20, but I can't take any of these guys out there and substitute them.
I agree. Oh, there's a new comment. Do you see it?
Yeah,
Do we want to hit that?
we
I'm
can.
game. I'm game. Do you have another one you want to hit that's quarterback first, Matt?
I'm looking right now, but if you want to touch up on that one for right now,
Yeah, we hit Randall Cunningham. We hit, I think, I love JB's comment. And JB, we want you to come on. Okay. Mike, by the way, this has been great. I would absolutely do this again.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I had a great time too. I hope you enjoyed it half as much as I did.
oh, dude, this is cool.
You did great.
I'm going to say on a close one, Fitz, because of his one-arm catchability, two-arm catchability. I think he didn't have the same. He had good quarterbacks. I think Teal had better quarterbacks. I think Fitzgerald's just an all-around, has a little bit of more all-around talent. But if there's a top 10 list, Fitz would be like one above T.O. So I'm going to say Fitz by hair, but I can't argue to say the other one, T.O.
I'm actually a really big T.O. fan, but I have to say Larry Fitzgerald on this because you look at how many quarterbacks he had. He had 16, and a lot of them were names you didn't even want. They were picking guys up off the streets to actually throw to this man. And, if Larry Fitzgerald would have had Kurt Warner or Carson Palmer was his second best quarterback. Carson Palmer was his second quarterback. Imagine what
Steve Young throwing to him.
Exactly. Imagine if Larry Fitzgerald had Donovan McNabb throwing to him, Jeff Garcia throwing to him, Steve Young throwing to him.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just
off the roof.
Yeah. And it really and truthfully, to me, Larry Fitzgerald is probably the second greatest receiver of all time above Randy Moss because the simple fact that he was able to have such a great career. He had over 17,000 yards receiving with, for the most part, 6 seasons where he had a good quarterback.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Dang, he actually had more yards than Terrell Owens?
Yes.
What? By like 1,500
And I think he
yards.
had 82 touchdowns. This is just going off the top of my head.
Fitz had 121 TDs. Owens had 153. So Owens had 32 more TDs. I think Owens was the better talent, but I want Fitz all day because he's not going to wreck my team. And
that's a great point.
He was arguably just as good of a receiver. We're splitting hairs here, but if you're asking me which guy was more explosive and dominant, it might be Owens, maybe. But Men makes a great argument. He didn't have the quarterbacks that Owens did. Owens had McNabb. Owens had Steve Young for large parts of his career.
Mm-hmm.
I love Kurt Warner. He had him for a blip, but
Tony Romo. I mean, Tony Romo. Yeah, we poked fun out of him, but we found out
he's better than Carson Palmer.
If Romo had a team, I think he might have won a Super Bowl. If he'd had a defense, if he'd had the defense and the O-line that Dak had at points in his career, Romo had it for like one season. They were even worse at team building then than they were up until a few years ago, until like a year or two ago with the Cowboys.
Check out that.
Yeah. Yes. That's just ridiculous. That's another reason why Fitz gets it. Owens, but I will say this: Owens' his hero act in the Super Bowl, coming off the broken ankle and carrying that team, it makes it close. But just because of personality and he's destroying the team, Owens is ranked higher on my list, but I like Fitz better.
I mean, he's high on my list because he had a workout in his driveway. Wow. I mean, he was doing getting his crunches in while he was sitting there talking to a reporter. I mean, come on.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
And I kind of already said this already. Moss is probably my third or fourth receiver. I mean, mine fluctuates because I think about this daily. To me, Moss was someone that was great catching the 50-50 balls down the sideline and taking the top off the defense. But if you ever watched his team getting blown out, he hated going over the middle. And Fitz, he just would take it. He could, both are game-breaking receivers, and you couldn't go like this is like splitting hairs because then you also have to add Calvin Johnson to the mix.
Short career. Yeah, I would take Moss over Fitz. I want to say it's a close call, but Randy Moss was so consistently great with his numbers from his rookie year to the Patriots years, to the catches he made, to the speed. I think he was more of an asset. He's one of the. Both of them are two of the 10, probably 10 best players who never won a ring. But I think Moss. I can't argue with Fitz, but I think Moss was top 3 receivers of all time easily.
And I can agree with that. The only thing is that the 2 seasons that he went to Oakland, he disappeared. He literally went into the black hole. And, that's my argument with Fitz is he was in the black hole, but he was still relevant. He still had 1,000-yard seasons. So Moss, I love him. Don't get me wrong. And, speedy recovery against cancer, big guy. But yeah, no, Fitz is still my number 2. And that, like I said, that's splitting hairs at this point.
I was reading a fun Twitter comment. I'm going with Randy Moss because Ned, you made a great argument that he was pretty much just a deep threat, but it might have been the best single weapon, offensive weapon in NFL history at that one trick. And yes, Fitz was more steady. He was a way better teammate, but Randy Moss, his deep threat ability, he could just wreck he wrecked a lot of my Sunday and Monday nights and Sundays as a Packer fan. I
remember his first breakout moment for Owens was when he
Oh yeah.
I mean, he worked the Bears over too. I mean, as far as Moss is concerned. So
just Moss.
Every team, it seems like every receiver just has a breakout moment against the Packers for some reason. Look at Owens, you look at Moss.
And all these receivers we could have drafted, even now, like Justin Jefferson. I'm like, yeah, that's nice.
That's great.
I love that we could have drafted him.
Oh, Addison, all right.
We passed him up. Yay! We've got Romeo Doubs. I love it.
All right.
Oh man, they're throwing some good stuff.
LT easily.
LT easily. Emmett's a number 4 for me. And
Brown at 3.
Jim Brown at 3.
I'm going to take Sanders. I think Sanders first. I'll tell you why. This is very easy. Peyton was a great all-around player, but Sanders had a 5.0 average. Peyton had a 4.4. Big difference. Peyton was a great player, not just because of his rushing ability, but his catching, his throwing, his blocking. But Barry didn't have a line. Peyton in his 85 great season had another most underrated line ever. Imagine if Barry had just a good line. Forget Dallas's. He'd be illegal in 3 states.
Mike, nicely done.
Yeah.
I have Barry 1. I've got Sweetness 2. I want to put Tomlinson 3, but it's really close. I have Jim Brown 3 and then Tomlinson 4. And then I don't know, probably Emmett. I haven't even
I have Barry Sanders number 1, mostly because of what Mike just talked about, the below average line that he made look good. And Jim Brown, there are 2 players that have 100 yards average in NFL history as far as rushing per game, and it is Jim Brown with 104 and Barry Sanders with 99.7. So I'm going to give him the 0.3 yards. Just simply say it.
And the great thing about those 2 players, sorry, go ahead. You were saying, man?
No.
About those 2 players they didn't retire because they were over the hill. One won an acting career. One just couldn't take his team and lost his love for the sport. I actually think Brown's the greatest running back of all time. I'll take issue. I can't go wrong with Barry Sanders, but in 12 games, he used to have like 1,500 yards, carry players his back with a 5.4 average. And I think I'm going to argue this. People have to hear me out first. He had without rushing for 2,063, he had 1,863 yards with a 6.4 average. He wanted 2,000, he could have had it, but it's not a magic number. But I think Brown did more. He was ahead of his time. And if he played today with AstroTurf, if he played today with Dome Stadiums, he'd be better than Saquon Barkley is. I put Brown first and Sanders second.
And I'm fine with that. I mean, it's like I said, mine fluctuates. So
no, I get it. The other reason I've got Barry number 1 is other than, and I'm sure there's some individual sports there is, like Serena was amazing. Tiger Woods was amazing, but when you watch a highlight, and I hate just using highlight reels, but if you watch Barry Sanders highlight reel, the only guy that is as special where your jaw drops for me is Michael Jordan. There's some amazing plays you could watch from, LeBron or Kareem or Magic was amazing. So many good players. But Michael Jordan, for me, his highlight reel, the only guy that gets close in a team sport is Barry Sanders. Seriously, it is. Nobody else in NFL history could do what he did. It was.
I'll tell you who else is a great. I want to mention 2 points. You're right about the highlight reel. Devin, you'll love this man. Devin Hester is an exciting player to watch. But I think I think Ozzie Smith is right up there. I mean, you mentioned Magic Johnson. Magic passed the ball, and Ozzie on their backs played the great defense he did. I could watch them all day. Barry Sanders, and Devin Hester, I could too. They're amazing.
And Wayne Gretzky too. He deserves a name drop if we're talking all-time best athletes. This is a good one. Sports SP. We're gonna have to get you on the show, man.
Reggie White.
That was quick.
Yes, I'm taking nothing away from Bruce Smith, but Reggie White, Lawrence Taylor, who I think is the greatest player period in football, thinks that Reggie White was even better. Mm-hmm. This guy no one could guard this guy. Even Anthony Munoz had a hard time. The greatest lineman. He had like 20 sacks every year or 18 sacks every year. He dominated for Philadelphia, and then when he went to Packers, your boys, he dominated there too, and he was unstoppable. I mean, there was nothing the man couldn't do on the line. He was unguardable. Bruce Smith was a great player too. He was Reggie White light. I think Deacon Jones was also better than Bruce Smith.
I love Deacon Jones. I love that.
Oh, Deacon, man. Lawrence Taylor
had 2 seasons where he had over 20 sacks. In fact, he would probably have the record right now if they actually had sacks as an actual stat back then.
I think you're probably right. It was sort of like Bill Russell in blocks. No one had the stats back then, or Will Chamberlain even in blocks, but they would have had tons of them.
This is fair. I think it's Lewis, but Brian Urlacher was fun. He was a Lobo. I actually went to University of Mexico.
I still go with the Ray Lewis.
It's Ray Lewis. It's Ray Lewis. Brian Urlacher was special though.
I mean, Brian Urlacher, you can make an argument for possibly Dick Butkus, I would say, is probably the greatest middle linebacker we ever had.
I think he's best middle linebacker, period.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be a really good discussion as well, because you're thinking about middle linebackers and, Jack Lambert.
Singletary.
Yeah,
Jack Lambert. When Jack Lambert retweeted my stuff on Twitter, I was so excited. That was so cool. The actual Jack Lambert. That was really cool.
When he started following me too, I was like, oh. But because that was one of my dad's heroes. So I mean, that's why. And we'll do one more real quick. And I will tell you like this. I think they should, because if you have a chance to get a franchise quarterback, you need to go ahead and swing for it. Because if you don't, you're going to have Will Levis, you're going to have Mason Rudolph, you're going to have 20 other players that you've had since Steve McNair under center. Go ahead and get the man that can actually probably be with your team for the next 10 years.
He won't be Marcus Mariota, we promise.
Easily.
He could actually throw.
I think they will, and I think they absolutely should.
I actually think he's I love Ashton Genty, and you can make an Abdul Carter argument for me any day of the week. And I actually really like Membu as a tackle. Will Johnson looks great, but Cam Ward actually is extremely talented. They got to do it, and it's not Shador. I have an argument of Jackson Dart over Shador for you, but yeah, it's got to be Cam Ward. I agree. Matt, do you got anything else?
No, I think we've had enough of Mike's time for tonight. We have gone over 30 minutes. So, this has been fun. And I do like the comments. People, please, every Monday you will be seeing us 8 p.m., not after May, 8 p.m. 8, not 7:30, not 8:30.
Not 9.
Come on this show. It's going to be at 8 o'clock because Med has to get up at 5 in the morning. So.
And Med just started a new job, and he stayed late today. I'm proud of him. Thank you. Mike, This was an honor, man. I had a blast.
This was awesome, dude.
Hey, can you really quick tell people where to find some of your videos? We got a lot of people watching now, almost 200.
Sure. The best thing you can do, because I do 2 on baseball, is put Mike Essen, the name you see there, ESSEN baseball. One of them, I talk about if I was a general manager, which teams I would take. And one of them I predicted was a year ago, the playoffs for the baseball season. And there's many other subjects I discuss. And I had a great time with you guys. Thank you, Izac and Med, and everybody out there who watched. I had a blast.
This
Absolutely.
is amazing. And whenever we actually talk about doing greatest of all time, Izac, I think we need to bring in JB as well. So we could have Mike and JB. And Mike, you should reach out to JB because I like football history. And, unfortunately, no, I wouldn't say unfortunately. I was born in 1980. So I read up on it. But whenever I listen to my dad talk about it or hear someone else that is a little bit more seasoned than I am in life, it kind of makes me like sit there. It's like kind of sitting at the campfire and just listening to stories again. And this was really cool. And I really did enjoy this. Thank you for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Izac. I love this. I love the fact also we disagreed on a few things. I think you'd agree if I agreed in the top 5 too, it would have been a little more boring.
Okay.
Still would have been great. It would have been great. I'm not saying wrong, but I would have loved it.
I'd go Pujols, but that's close.
Yeah. But I had a blast with you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Also, I enjoyed it too because I listen to so many podcasts about now, and I'm so dialed into right now. I have done some history, like NFL history research, but not on Mets level. And for this, I really did. And I got really close to throwing some of the older quarterbacks in there, like Johnny Unitas. In Otto Graham, I was like reading on them. I was like, God, these guys are freaking awesome. Then I went and watched some tape, and I was like, oh, dude, I hadn't done it in so many years. So this was cool to not just focus on right now. I want to do more of this. This is great.
I'd love to come back. Thank you.
And one of the things I used to teach my players and everything, I said, I'll tell them if you really want to get really good at this sport, you have to look at what the people did before you and just take bits of their game and put it to your own. If you do that, I think in a lot of ways you get to really see people grow. I mean, the way that the foundation in the NFL was built today was from players like Red Grange and Gino Marcoletti and, some great players a lot of people don't really know anymore. I mean, Jim Thorpe, there's a huge statue of him in the middle of Canton. And, and you learned about, I think it was the Ottawa Indians that he used to play for. I remember it was an Indian squad, all Indians. And they were actually the traveling team, first ever traveling team. So, if you ever get a chance to go to Canton, I will say, go do it.
God, I watched it so bad. Yeah, he played for the Canton Bulldogs, the Cleveland Indians, the Oorang Indians,
Oorang, that's what I'm thinking about.
The Rock Island Independence. This is all in his career. The New York Giants, everybody knows them. The Rock Island Independence again.
Everyone knows them.
The Tampa Cardinals. The Canton had a team, the Canton Bulldogs, and then
won the first 2 championships ever.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Med, you got anything coming up for Shots?
I do have some stuff coming up with Shots. I will eventually do my voiceover work for my mock draft 2.0, and hopefully we'll be releasing that soon. I have a few people that are hitting me up and trying to get me to come on their shows, but I have to take some time to do my own stuff and also work. So, but you may see me on Mr. U's Thursday podcast. You might see me on Izac's in the coming future. I will bounce around. And if you ever want me, just hit me up on Twitter, hit me on Facebook or whatever. Izac, what do you got?
I am going to be hopping on the Dog House podcast next Wednesday and Mary's show, Mac and Cheese, next Wednesday. This Friday, though, me and Jones, and I'm not sure who else, possibly Sportcoin. We talked to Millie Goats maybe this Friday. We're going to do a show this Friday. We're going to talk about NFL free agency, I think. That's why I want to get you on, man. But we're going to talk some NFL, maybe some NBA, maybe about my March Madness bracket I'm really excited about. I sent you a message earlier, man. So, yeah, check me out this Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. And then me and Matt will be back with the show next Monday. I'm not going to spoil it yet because we got a couple ideas, but we'll be back next Monday as well.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, this terrible threesome is about to go out. Y'all have a wonderful night.
Yeah.